G'day guys, Rukshania, thanks for joining me for the news vlog. I hope you've all had a lovely evening. I've got a few stories from Australia and around the world to share with you. First up, this story caught my eye earlier today when I saw new tax. I wasn't surprised because of course we are under an Anthony Albanese Labour government, so a new tax is a feature of the government. But look, this is around recycling. So let me read this article from the Weekend Australian. Tanya Plibersek urged to scrap new recycling tax. Australians struggling with the cost of living will be slugged by a world-first recycling tax. As the exporters of recyclables warns, Anthony Albanese's new regulatory crackdown will force them to pass on millions in extra costs, I'm assuming to us and businesses, while leading to more landfill and higher emissions, which seems a bit odd and counterproductive if you consider recycling in being environmental. If you're going to have more landfill and higher emissions, it doesn't really make sense, does it? Anyway, these things don't need to make sense. This is someone from the regulatory body. Mr. Ralph told the Australian the proposed changes would exacerbate the cost of living crunch and leave all ratepayers with a world-first yellow bin recycling tax if this goes ahead. A recycling tax is yet another increase of the cost of living and another breach of trust to the Australian community. A world-first recycling tax in Australia. Of the recyclables collected from yellow top bins in Australia, about 48% is paper and cardboard, which makes sense, with Mr. Ralph saying there was no compelling reason for these items to be included in the new regulatory regime alongside plastic, glass and tyres. Visy and Opal are the only Australian buyers of paper and cardboard recyclables, meaning that each year there is a surplus of about 1.2 million tonnes, about half of the total that needs to be exported for recycling. The proposed July 1 changes will set a new quality standard limiting the allowable prohibited content in each shipment of recyclables to 5% before reducing to 3% over time, meaning this limit can no longer be negotiated between businesses. To cover the cost of enforcing this new standard, the government will impose a fee of nearly $4 on every tonne of recyclables exported overseas. I think I also saw there that there's a license fee, a $30,000 license fee under the proposed scheme for Mr. Ralph. So the combination of these imposts would mean tens of millions of dollars of extra cost would be passed back to the Australian community within 12 to 18 months. How fantastic. And while all these new taxes are coming into play for the environment, apparently it's going to increase emissions and landfill, we do have Albanese up at the Taylor Swift concert in Sydney, swifting it up. Here he is dancing. I can't play the music because it'll get flagged on YouTube. I think he's dancing to Shake It Off. It's one individual we should shake off from Australia, in my opinion. But there he is, Albo dancing. And of course, there was a video of Scott Morrison dancing as well. But he's already done his destruction to the country and left. So we got to look into Albo. And yep, he's enjoying a Taylor Swift concert. Nothing wrong with that, of course. There was also Katy Perry who flew into town, speaking of Visy. And these businesses. This is an inside look at Anthony Pratt's private Katy Perry Melbourne concert. I think she got paid like $1.5 million to fly in and do this concert. And Albo was there. Victorian Premier Jacinta Allen, former Premier Daniel Andrews was there partying it up at the Pratt Mansion. So I'm not going to go too much into that. You can read this goss or whatever it is. But yeah, Anthony Albanese is having a swell time. Attending parties, attending Taylor Swift, taxes are going up, cost of living is out of control. So many issues Australians are facing. One wonders what's exactly going on with the guy that said he's not someone that's going to be, out there taking selfies and whatnot. But, what's he doing, honestly? Next up, guys, big news out of the USA. I wish I had my MAGA hat to do this announcement, and that is that Donald Trump has absolutely smashed, obliterated, is that the way to say that word? Doesn't matter. Destroyed Nikki Haley in South Carolina. And destroyed in South Carolina is humiliating for her because she is the former governor there. So a governor is like a premier of a state. So she's a former premier governor of that state of South Carolina, and she has been rejected by the people of her own state in favor of Donald Trump. This is from the Republican nomination for the presidency. So another primary, another massive win for Donald Trump. I think he's done a bit of a sweepstake so far. But yet, Nikki Haley will not drop out. So let me just quickly read this neutral article from the ABC somewhat to give you a bit of understanding on how these results played out. I'll give you some of my thoughts on this. Donald Trump is celebrating a big win in South Carolina. Here are the key takeaways from the Republican primary. Donald Trump has notched up another big win in the race to become the Republican Party's candidate for the president in the US election. And as was widely expected, it was an easy win. Yes, it was widely expected by everyone else except Nikki Haley, who kind of led everyone on to believe that there's a possibility she could pull out a surprise or get really, really close. Let's actually have a look at the results. So we got Donald Trump there. This is with 98% of the votes counted. He's on about 60% of the percentage of votes, and she's on about 39.5%. There's a wide margin there. Of course, there's other candidates there, but they've all dropped out. It's really just Nikki Haley and Donald Trump. But why is she hanging on there? She will not give up. This is the speech that she gave after she got humiliated in her own state.
I said earlier this week that no matter what happens in South Carolina, I would continue to run for president. I'm a woman of my word.
Look, Nikki Haley is quite cringe. She puts out some hilarious tweets out there. One of them was 12 fellas down, 1 to go. I won't go into too much detail about Nikki Haley's tweets, but you can go there and look for it yourself. Look, she is someone that knows there's no hope of defeating Donald Trump in many, if in any of these primaries that are happening, yet she persists. And the reason she's persisting is, I believe, and as many other commentators believe, is that she is hoping perhaps that Donald Trump will be struck off the ballot. One of these legal cases will take him off the running for the presidency. Maybe even if he becomes the nominee before the election, something might happen where he's taken off, and she's putting herself out there as the candidate that can jump in at any moment's notice because she came second. So really, she's a de facto candidate if Trump is not there. Now, other people have also said that she is just raising money for her PACs, because when you run these primaries, you collect, obviously, donations and money for the campaign. And then after she winds down her campaign, eventually when Trump is the nominee and she's lost, she can then funnel that money into, organizations or trusts or funds or whatever, however the PAC system works in the US, that she will then be in charge of. So look, a lot of things could be happening, but she is not one who is ashamed of being humiliated. Now, on to Donald Trump. Interestingly, there is a bit of Trump derangement syndrome and also Milei derangement syndrome. If you don't know who Javier Milei is, he is the president of Argentina, and he was at CPAC, and there was a great meeting between him and President Donald J. Trump. Let's have a look at this. So I cut the audio there, but yeah, this is at CPAC. You can see Trump and Javier Milei, and yes, a lot of people losing their minds because this is the Argentinian Trump, they call him. He's more of a libertarian, but he's got some great policies around cutting, the public sector, especially just cutting waste in government. Javier Milei, Donald Trump meeting, he's speaking at CPAC. There is a bit of momentum around these type of leaders around the world, and if Trump does become the US president, which it looks like based on the current polling, you're seeing already his relationships with world leaders. I can't imagine seeing Biden being able to, shake someone's hand with a firm grip. The guy can barely walk around, so it's great to see Trump and Javier Milei like this. Now, at the same time, if Trump does become the president of the United States of America on election night, there is rumors that the Democrats themselves will do what they accused Trump of doing during the January 6th insurrection riots or whatever. This is about certifying the election. They're saying that they will not certify Trump if he wins the election. So there's some rumors going around about this. This is an article from Town Hall, so I'll read a little bit of this to give you a bit of insight onto this. Are you kidding me? Here's the latest anti-Trump ploy Dems are considering. There you go. The Democratic Party is considering doing the very thing they bashed some Republicans of attempt to do that allegedly led to the Jan 6 riots. You can't make this up. There's talk about House Democrats not certifying the 2024 results if Trump wins. We're back to this 14th Amendment nonsense, as the attorneys who argued that states have the right to remove the former president from their ballots if they so choose to do so had a terrible day before the justices this month. The Atlantic had this piece about how Democrats, without guidance from the court, might refuse to certify the 2024 election results should Donald Trump win. Anyway, let's not read about this article. What they're saying is Because right now, some of the states are trying to strike Trump off the ballots. I believe Colorado has a case in the Supreme Court, and it looks like it's going against the Democrats this course. But regardless of what happens in that case, there are rumors that some of these Democrats, if Trump does win, particularly by a small margin against Biden, they will look to not certify the results. Therefore, doing exactly what they accused Donald Trump of doing, and they don't care about that, right? There's also individuals now saying that Trump can't win in 2024 because if he wins, the moment he wins, he will come after his political enemies and put them in jail and make cases against them and make their lives difficult. So the moment Trump wins, they're going to leave the country. I mean, these people are crazy because that's exactly what they're doing right now to Donald Trump, right? It's hilarious in aspect, but it's also sick that these people literally they're hypocrites and they're just doing exactly what they're worried about Trump doing to them. And based on Trump's record, he ran in 2016, and I listened to a lot of those debates and speeches and the things he was saying about locking Hillary Clinton up and all this kind of stuff. But after he won the 2024 election, he was very gracious and he did not do any of these things. Now, many people might look back on that time and wish that he actually went after these people more harder, but I think he sincerely, genuinely thought that these people would not turn out to be as crazy as they did when the deep state came after him. And he's, of course, now very famously paying the price for it because you have all this lawfare being used against him. You have so many Americans that were just protesting or against the results of the election that they questioned in jail as well, right? So crazy stuff, something that I'll be keeping a very close eye on as we keep getting closer and closer to Trump becoming the nominee for the 2024 election for the Republicans, and then of course the drama that surrounds the election itself. So I'll be covering a lot of that in my news vlogs. Next up, guys, Canada. Justin Trudeau was in Ukraine paying homage to Zelensky. I think it's the 2-year anniversary of the conflict starting there between Ukraine and Russia. I don't want to go too much into this story, but Canada has pledged 3.2 billion Canadian dollars for 2024 to help with the effort. But one interesting note that I've seen floating around is to show you how just woke the world has become, especially with this DEI stuff. Let me just find this. Okay. Gender inclusive demining for sustainable features in Ukraine. Funding 4 million. Let me read this. The project from Halo Trust aims to safeguard lives and livelihoods of Ukrainians, including women and internally displaced persons, by addressing the threat of explosive ordnance presence across vast areas of the country. Project activities include conducting non-technical surveys and subsequent manual clearance in targeted communities, providing capacity building to key national stakeholders. Okay, that all sounds well and good. Of course, you want to demine. There's been so many mines laid after a war, let's say the effort ends, or even territories which have been reclaimed, whatever. You want to demine that area, especially if you're going to have, people just walking around there or kids playing or whatever, right? You want to demine it because that's horrific. But interestingly, and establishing a gender diversity working group to promote gender transformative mine action in Ukraine. So let me read this again. And establishing a gender and diversity working group to promote gender transformative mine action in Ukraine. Who cares? Just get rid of the mines. We don't need a gender diverse workforce removing the mines. Get people out there that want to be involved in the work of doing that and remove the mines. I mean, these targeted type DEI policies now being built into funding, which is being given to Ukraine for assistance, and then saying that these are the conditions attached to it. It's kind of weird. I mean, there should be conditions attached to it, but what is this? Why do you need gender diversity demining? Crazy. It blew my mind when I saw it, and I wanted to share that with you guys. Now, meanwhile, in France, there's still ongoing protests in France. This is the latest one. French farmers storm a fair in Paris, so a trade show. A group of French farmers have stormed an agricultural fair in Paris. The incident comes as a part of ongoing protests. The protesters shouted and called for the resignation of French President Emmanuel Macron. The farmers are supported throughout Europe as calls grow louder for greater assistance with costs and also a relaxation of EU farming regulations. At least one person was arrested. So let's have a look at what the French farmers are up to at the trade fair. The French really aren't happy. I mean, the protests have died down a little bit, but you can see this issue is ongoing in France. I'll keep bringing you guys updates around the French farmers or any other European farmers really that are continuing to do these protests. Staying on the issue of France, we got France actually expelling a radical imam. So let me just read this article. France expels radical Tunisian imam Mahjoubi over flag comments. France has expelled a radical imam who made unacceptable remarks about the country's flag, Interior Minister Gerald Darmanin has said. Mahjoubi appeared to call the French flag satanic in a video that went viral online earlier this week. Mr. Darmanin and France's immigration reforms had enabled the swift deportation of the imam, but the imam denied any wrongdoing and said he had not meant to be disrespectful. Mahjoubi, who hails from Tunisia but came to France 38 years ago, was an imam at an Itouba mosque in the small town of Bangladesh. My French is really bad. In the south of France. He was arrested earlier this week after a video circulated online showing him describing a tricolour flag as satanic and saying it has no value with Allah. Although he did not refer to a specific flag, many of the commentators under the video assumed he meant the French flag. Anyway, you're seeing France now taking more strict hardline action against some of these type of extreme rhetoric that we're getting from certain religious preachers. And we're seeing some of that in Australia as well. There's a bit of extremism coming out in the preaching that we're seeing from some individuals in Australia, a part of these religious organizations. And it's interesting that France is taking this action. I don't know if other countries will mimic some of these type of actions against this type of extremism being glorified in their nations, especially ones which come across as either treasonous or attack the state directly and tell people that this is, satanic or whatever it is. Let me know your thoughts on this. I understand there's a free speech element to this as well. I get that. But when you mix it in with extremism in some respects and tell people to carry out certain acts, or you're implying that as a particular type of leader, then maybe the level is a bit different, and maybe there's warranted under these French laws, especially that they've introduced, to expel individuals from the country. We're almost at the end, guys. This story is from the UK. I'm going to read first the story and then see if you guys can figure out what's going on here. Cat killer guilty of murdering stranger as he walked home in Oxford. There we got Scarlett Blake there, 26. That's the cat killer. I don't know if you can pick up anything as of now while I'm showing this image of Scarlett. A woman who live streamed herself killing, dissecting and blending the body of a cat before brutally attacking a man and leaving him to drown to death in a river months later has been convicted of murder. Scarlett Blake, 26, targeted George Martin Carreno, 30, as he walked from home at a night out in Oxford in July 2021. She led him to a secluded riverbank where he was hit on the back of the head with a vodka bottle, strangled and then pushed into the river where he drowned, Oxford Crown Court heard. Blake denied murder but was convicted on Friday. She showed no emotion as the verdict was returned. Prosecutors said Blake, who is transgender, killed the BMW worker who was a stranger to her because she had a fixation with violence and with knowing what it would be like to kill someone. The murder came 4 months after Blake livestreamed the horrific killing of a cat. Blake told the family pet, "Here we go, my little friend. Oh boy, you smell like shit. I can't wait to put you through the blender." So this is some sick, twisted individual, right? This article refers to this individual as she throughout. It then lets you know that, yes, actually, they're transgender. And then, I've seen the commentary online. A lot of, especially women in the country, are not happy with the way that this is being represented. They're saying that this is an act of a male-on-male violence that is being now labeled as a female, a woman, a she. You can see that language throughout those articles that are being presented, and the way that this is being represented is now being blamed on women. So let me just read this from the Women's Rights Network. Scarlett Blake is the latest in a long line of violent men who claim women's identities before or after committing a serious offense. He is and remains a man, no matter what he calls himself. They are not our crimes, and we will not be silenced. You can go read that on Twitter, Women's Rights Networks. They got a full thread about their thoughts on this, and it's quite interesting. So there's a few individuals there that they've highlighted who have committed similar crimes while saying that they're women. I don't know. Sign of the times that we're in. I think it does negatively reflect on the fact that if someone that had no idea read this article, and you'd see this woman blended a cat, right? She killed her pet, and then she went on a killing spree as well, killing this other individual, and it's not a woman. I mean, at the end of the day. All right, guys. I think the last one that I want to share with you guys is around Vice Media. Vice Media stopped publishing on website and cuts hundreds of jobs. Now, caveat to all of this, I enjoyed, as a younger individual, I enjoyed looking at a lot of the Vice stuff that they did very early on. They had some great work where they got into the field, into different communities around the world, particularly like, uncharted areas with their reporters, and do some very interesting reporting from those areas. But over time, I noticed that Vice became very woke, virtue signaling, trying to destroy, political movements and campaigns and individuals. They're a part of this, in my opinion. So they're pretty much going out of business. So a lot of people are celebrating this. So let me just read a little bit of this article. Vice Media plans to cut hundreds of jobs as it stops publishing on Vice.com, according to a memo from Chief Executive Bruce Dixon. In May, the firm filed for bankruptcy in the US and was bought by Fortress Investment Group. Mr. Dixon said Vice plans to partner with established media companies to distribute our digital content. Media firms, including Channel 4, Los Angeles Times, and Business Insider, have also cut jobs this year. Anyway, the reason I brought that up was because I wanted to show you how Vice comes up with stories. Let's have a look at this meme. All right, it's a classic, and then I'm going to end the show. Yep, that's the poor country, Venezuela. Minority, transgender, and drug ketamine. So this is, I don't know if this is real, but this is typical of the type of headlines that Vice were doing. I think this is why they went broke, because they went very woke. With this headline, meet Venezuela's transgender ketamine dealers. All right, this is the kind of stuff they were doing. Anyway, guys, I hope you've enjoyed my show today. As always, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel at The Real Rukshan. You can hit that subscribe button and also the notification bell if you want to get updates as soon as I put a video up. You can also find me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Rumble, and Odyssey at The Real Rukshan. Anyway, guys, I'll see you next time. Bye.